How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have David Fradin with us, and he's the founder of a Spice Catalyst, and he's based in Silicon Valley in the United States. So David, tell us, what are the 5 steps that entrepreneurs should be doing out there to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, it's embodied as a mnemonic in the first word of my company's name, SPICE, for Spice Catalyst. And the 5 things are, the S stands for having a product market strategy. And I advocate that entrepreneurs figure that out before they start funding any product or service development. The P stands for have repeatable processes. The C stands for having understanding the customer. The I, which comes before the C, is having the information necessary in order to make informed decisions. And in terms of understanding the customer, go to the basics of understanding what it is that your customer wants to do, why they want to do it, when they want to do it, where they want to do it, how they want to do it, what's standing in their way, and how important is it for them to get it done, and how satisfied are they with the current way of getting it done. And then the E stands for the 150 competencies that your employees need to have, 130 competencies employees need to have in order to successful product.
That's very powerful. So David, I want to ask you a question more direct, because we have the founders, right? The first-time founders, we found them that they are very product-focused. They love the product. They are in love with the product. They believe that the product is going to save a major problem. But often in this early stage, we find first-time founders that they more product focused, but they left aside the rest of elements on the equation in order to make a successful business, which is bring it to the market, listen to your customers, make sure your product is market fit. It's not a product that you want to design, it's what the clients want to buy. From out of the 500 millionaires that we interviewed in this broadcast, we haven't found anybody yet that told me, Harry, this is a product, how I designed it, and exactly like this, the client bought it. So it doesn't happen this way. So in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that you find helping entrepreneurs out there in terms to move them from the mindset like, yes, you create an amazing product, but this is just a tiny part of what was going to happen. And the same energy that you put to this product development, the same energy has to go to areas of marketing, sales, product market fit, pivot it and twist it until it gets fit for the market. Tell us a little bit more about your experience.
Well, the key is understanding the customer, and then testing to the point in which you find 15 unmet needs that your product or service is going to satisfy. And the way you do that first is become like a social anthropologist and observe what your customers are doing. Then interview 40 to 80 of them, and then survey 800 to 1,200 of them as a representative sample of your target market. That gives you the core hard data that you can then use to project the size of the market, what your product should cost, and the value that it creates. And then you can calculate your return on investment. And then that's the information you take to your seed investors or your venture capitalists. And it will give them confidence. They'll give a 10 to 1 or 100 to 1 return on investment that they're going to need in order to make an investment in your company.
So what you do? Yeah.
Typically, I found many entrepreneurs are too arrogant and too caught up with how smart they think they are that they fail to do that.
Thank you.
And I know more of them that have gone out of business that have been successful.
Exactly. Thank you so much, David, for spelling it as it is. Yeah. So what do you do with entrepreneurs that tell you, David, you don't understand, my product is so good and I solving a problem that nobody's solving, and you don't know what you're talking about. I don't need to focus in interviewing the client to see what product is sold, because this I patent this product, and this product is amazing. And if you have a good product, it will sell by itself. So what why you tell to this founder? Because I find those ones again talking to me. I'm like, guys, come on.
Again, you got to make sure that you are doing what the customer wants to get done.
Absolutely.
And you can't do that by saying, hey, what do you want to do, or what do you need? Because that requires the customer to identify and understand what the problem is that they have, and also the solution. And historically, the story goes that Henry Ford, the inventor of the low-cost automobile, went out in the streets of Dearborn, not far from where I grew up in Detroit, and he asked people if they'd like to have a car. And they said, no, I want a faster horse. Well, if he had sat on a stoop of one of the saloons on Main Street in Dearborn and had a mug of beer, he would have noticed people beating their horses with a stick to get through town faster. And if he had big data available, and suppose the internet was available back then, what I'm illustrating here is the folly of just only using big data or analytics to determine what it is that your product needs to do. He asked people if he had done an internet search for how many people were searching for the keyword car or automobile, he would have found zero. The product didn't exist yet, and therefore these roads and parking lots that we see today are figments of our imagination. So you got to be careful when you're using big data.
Thank you, David. That's really powerful. Really, really powerful. And I think that you're right on point in something. It's all about listening to your customer. It's not about you. It's not about your product. And yes, if you decide, you might create a product that doesn't exist out there, right? Yet, you have to listen to your clients. Even when I started my first business, yes, it was a property business. We wanted to sell for 5 million. And I remember the first room that I want to rent it. I opened the door to the first guy, and he saw the room. And I told him, do you want to take the room? He told me, no. I said, why? He said, look, the room needs a little bit of painting. It's not good like this. And then he left. And as soon as he left, I went to the painting shop, and I said to the guy, listen, I need to paint a room, and I never paint in my life. I need this, this, this. And the guy told me, yes, Harry, I can tell that you never paint in your life because you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, take everything. So I went there, I paint that room, I paint myself. It was created total mess, but I managed to paint the room. Then the next guest come, I opened the door, I said, look, this is the room. What do you think? And she told me, well, it's clean, but it's a little bit cold. It needs something warm. So as soon as the girl left, I went to IKEA and I bought these bed sheets that they are pink, orange, and red. I said, more warm impossible. And then I bought painting in black and white. And then on the way back also, I spent £1, I think, in a vase of flower. And then the third girl come. I opened the door and said, look, this is the room. And the girl said, I take it. And that was the end of it. So I thought that I wanted that the product was selling one form, but was the client who was telling me, he was giving me clues. If you do that, I might take it. If they were shaping the product. And this is kind of, I always tell this story, David. Is it real? Is it really like this kind of analogy, how it works in real life to get a product market fit?
Yeah, it's can't get to the market fit until you understand what the customer wants to do, when, where, why, how, so forth. And related to a point you made earlier, most new products are not really new products. They're usually innovations on existing things.
100%.
Example I give there is the first caveman or cave woman took a piece of burned wood called charcoal, and they would draw or write on their cave wall. Well, they noticed that they couldn't take the cave wall to the next cave to show to their friends, so they invented a slate. So it was a piece of rock that they could carry. And then they noticed that that was kind of heavy, so they eventually invented paper, which was a lot lighter. And to write with, they got tired of getting their hands dirty with the charcoal, so they wrapped the charcoal with some wood and called it a pencil. And then they got tired of having to constantly sharpen the pencil. So they noticed that if they took a feather out of a duck, they could dip it in some ink and write on the paper with that. They got tired of spilling the ink on their paper. So the society or entrepreneurs invented the ballpoint pen. Then people got tired of writing so slowly. So a typewriter was invented, but it hurts your fingers to pound away on a mechanical typewriter, and it got electrified. And then they noticed that if you wanted to do the same letter over and over again, you had to type it over and over again. So word processing was. Then you had dedicated word processors like Wang and Xerox, IBM, and then someone wrote a program called Word Perfect, which was a word processor ran on an ordinary personal computer. And the whole field has transitioned basically for that same need that the caveman had many years ago. And innovation came to bear, which innovation is a big word that means nothing more than doing something faster, better, higher quality, with style and at lower cost.
So, David, the what can we do in order to close the gap between the entrepreneurs and the investor? Because on one side we have the investor that there is plenty of money available. Actually, the money out there in order to invest in tech companies or in companies in general is available literally everywhere, plenty of it. Then we have also a lot of startup founders with a lot of projects looking for funding, but then we find a big gap, huge gap in the middle, where the VCs, they decline a lot of, an angel investor, they decline a lot of projects and investment on the, because they are usually listening to this type of meeting with the angel investor and the VC, they're telling to the founder, look, hold me in your next idea, right? And the guys are looking at me and saying, Harry, what he's trying, what this guy means? I need investment now. And I said, look, what he means is that you haven't shown signs of an entrepreneur yet. You answers that you're giving to the questions is they realize, you know, some of those VCs or angel investors, they have been founded themselves. Probably they exit 2-3 times, or they have lots of years of experience like you, David. And I think that if the startup founder is not mature enough, right, and they don't show signs or right up in love with the product to be an entrepreneur and to deal with the business mechanics, it's going to be very difficult to find funding. On the other hand, you have the founder that tell me, Harry, the investor never happy. When I have good product, they want traction. When they want traction, they want some this. They always want something and they never give me them, right? So how can we close the gap in the middle? That is actually, because we want all the entrepreneurs to be, from this broadcast, to be healthy, wealthy, and happy. And I know a lot of founders there that they're struggling finding funding. And then I have a lot of strange people that is telling me, Harry, there are hundreds of projects out there, but none of them are investing. So how can we close this gap?
It comes back to the survey that you do of the 800 to 1,200 personas that's part of your target market. And that survey would be asking them what is it that they want to do, and eventually what are they willing to pay for it, and then compare that to what it would cost to build that product, and determine by asking questions like, what's the likelihood of you buying this product at $100? What's the likelihood at $80, $60, $40, and so forth? And you can then figure out the elasticity of demand. So you can put together a pricing strategy so that you know for a fact you can get a return on investment, and you know how much it's going to cost in your marketing budget to reach your target market, because in your interviews and in your surveys, you'll find out where your customer lives, where they get their information from, and you can then compute the return on investment, keeping in mind that the venture capitalist typically is looking for at least a 10-to-1 return on their investment. The angel investor, which goes in much earlier, takes a higher risk, will not make an investment unless they know for sure they're going to get 100-to-1 return on investment. And the only way you can prove that is with that basic bottom-up market research by surveying the target market.
Fantastic, David. And tell us a little bit more how you become an entrepreneur.
Well, I started.
How long have you been an entrepreneur?
Since 1969.
Wow.
I started the flying club at the University of Michigan because I was in aerospace engineering. I was a private pilot, and I was shocked that a Big Ten university like Michigan did not have a flying club. And that club is still going today, 55 years later.
Wow.
It's trained 5,000 pilots. I started with a set of values and missions, what the organization can do, and it's thrived ever since. My aerospace engineering professor noticed that I could organize, so he was on Lyndon Johnson's Supersonic Transport Advisory Committee. The SST was in trouble in Congress for getting funding. So he asked me if I wanted to start a school in favor of an American supersonic transport. Not knowing what I was getting myself into, I said, sure. And by the time I was finished with my sophomore year in college, I testified before Congress in Washington, D.C., traveling there from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I had organized about 40 chapters of PAST, FA, SST, Fly America's SST, in college campuses. The following year, we shifted because the SST got defeated, and was defeated because of a feeling of strong anti-technology in the United States. And the organization became a Federation of Americans Supporting Science and Technology, raised money from the Fortune 500 in order to support this 501c3 nonprofit educational institution. And then when I graduated from college, the degree in interdisciplinary engineering, which is essentially product success training. I couldn't find a job, so I moved the headquarters of FAST to Washington, D.C. and lobbied Congress to build a space shuttle, and lobbied Congress for Project Independence to reduce our reliance on foreign oil, and we needed that to do as well in accomplish.
Oh, that's beautiful story, David. So, what you have for founders that they are looking for funding and they want to raise money in that we are today, where the barrier to entry any business is, the barrier to entry, especially the tech business, is really, really low. So AI and a lot of technologies out there, and everyone is looking for funding to scale the business. And so, what are
two different things? One is getting the funding to get your business started, and that's what I just talked about. The second is, now that you've proven that you have a business model and a secret sauce that people are willing to buy and you're able to make a profit on it, then you have to start focusing on processes that you can scale the business. And that's when the Series B, Series C, Series D investors come in, and they just want to know for sure that if they put X number of dollars in, you'll be able to scale the business, and they can get whatever particular return on investment that they're looking for.
So when entrepreneurs get a seed funding, which is the first round of funding, yes, what they should be doing, the distribution of funds of this funding. Should they everything on the product, or should I put some part of the product and another part in pay to the client? Basically, if you have $100, David, and I give you $100 as a seed funding, how much of this $100 you will allocate to product development, and how much of this $100 you will allocate to conduct those surveys to ask the potential clients if they like the product and in what form they would like to buy? Because I think this question is important. For founders, sometimes people receive seed funding and they put all the money in the product, and then when they go to the next stage, they don't have any traction. They just have a product they don't even know if the market wants to buy. And so when it comes to the seed funding, which is the very early money that the founders receive, how they should distribute the funds effectively so they can last, so they can move forward?
Well, there's no one answer to that. It depends upon the product, the cost of manufacturing the product, the distribution strategy, the sales strategy, the marketing and advertising strategy, the social media strategy, where the customer is going to buy it, and how is the customer going to get a return on their investment. So you could be spending your money on future enhancements to the product because you need to stay ahead of the competition. You could be spending money on your marketing, on hiring a sales force, training the sales force, hiring a support team, training the support team, and so forth. So it all depends upon the product and the market and what information you gather through your surveys and your interviews.
What are the biggest challenges that you have as an entrepreneur and how you overcome those challenges?
I think the biggest challenge goes back to understanding your customer, and the way you overcome it.
Why is it so difficult to understand our customers?
Because if you don't, your chances are you're going to be one of those 90% that fail. And you fail because you're not providing a product that solves a particular need of what it is that your customer wants to do.
And then any advice you can give entrepreneurs how this process can be more in detail, what process they should be following to know the customer better?
Well, the process has to be improved over time. I have at Harvard or MIT did a study that the most profitable companies have documented the processes, and they have retrospects after each of their activities in order to improve their process. I had one client that had 5 product failures in a row. I asked them if they followed any particular process as they went through their product market strategy and product development. He said no, and he said the result of that is when we did our retrospect, everyone sat around and pointed fingers and blamed everybody else. He says the lack of a repeatable process creates a culture of blame within the organization rather than continued and improved success.
Yeah, and let's talk about customer journey, because listen to your customer is not only going to be important of the early stage, but all over the life your company. And I think that we have when some people with me the growth strategy, I always see those plans, and it's all about how to find a new client. And let me find a new client. They don't worry about the new client. And I said, look, how about your existing client? Do you think that if you improve and nurture your existing client, you have a gold mine there, and it's even way cheaper because the client had a relationship with you, and it can bring you referrals. But why everybody's always focused, David, in putting all the money, all the effort and everything, trying to bring more strangers to the business, more new people to the business, and the existing client, this gold mine, I always call it, nobody cares about it. Nobody, they think that once the client bought, that's it. This is the journey stop there, without knowing that this client, number one, can repeat and also can refer you people, but also they will be more likely to buy more products from you that can solve even more products. Why this?
It's less expensive to sell an additional product or service to an existing customer than it is to attract a
Absolutely.
In sales strategy, I always advocate focusing on your existing customers first before you begin to expand and trying to attract new customers.
And listen, exactly, and listen to these customers. I think that I remember in the .com, one amazing things that Amazon did. I remember in the .com company when everybody was failing. Yeah, I think Amazon actually survived because of this, because they put everything they got into a customer experience. They 100% that they if they make sure that the client didn't produce whatever, that they can return it immediately, that all this resistance in the client, it had to be spotless. And probably you and I, we find out something because a friend told us, or look, I'm looking for something. Oh, go to this place, Amazon. It's amazing. You pay and they will get you straight away. And if you don't like it, you can return it. Things like this. And now it's one of the biggest companies in the world. That's how important is focusing, listen to the clients and focus on the client experience. Again, what you said is actually less expensive to nurture this relationship. But I still, David, we keep finding this behavior in entrepreneurs that they want to, again, it go to resources. If I give you $100, how much resources do you put out of the $100 in nurture and develop the relationship with existing clients, and how much you put out of these 100 in order to acquire new clients? These questions are good because the entrepreneurs can have an idea how they can allocate the budget. Most of the time is done incorrectly.
Yeah, I think about 60% existing customers, but you also, before you finalize that, you need to do a return on investment analysis. Figure out how much does it cost to sell more product to an existing customer versus how much does it cost to attract a new customer. And keep in mind that the journey is a 9-part process. And I've got an article on my website at spicecatalyst.com that describes the complex customer journey that a customer goes through. First, they have to hit a point of inflection where they realize that they have a problem. And then, but you can sell anything to anybody new if they don't first agree that they have a problem. Once they have a problem, then they're going to, second step of the customer journey is they're going to identify the characteristics, the specifications of the solution they're looking for. Then they will shop around to find alternative solutions. Then they'll evaluate those solutions, and then they'll pick one of those solutions. And then whether they are an individual consumer or a major corporation, they have to justify the purchase of that solution along with an estimated return on investment. Once that's done, then they purchase it. Then it has to be deployed and used successfully. If the company fails on the deployment, then they won't give you recommendations for additional sales throughout the organization, and or they won't give you any recommendations for sales to others. So after your final deployment and successful deployment, then you can ask for references and referrals, and then you make your additional sales. So you can't, if you've got a happy customer, doing those additional sales is just getting the referral and then closing the deal. I did a few years ago a $15 million deal with Sears to put personalized recommendations on the Sears.com website. My company did that successfully. Then I said, could you introduce me to Kmart.com? Which they did. They could introduce me to SearsParts.com, which they did. And Sears at that time owned nearly 100 different web commerce sites like Sears.com and Kmart.com. And I started spreading out, selling the same recommendation engine to those other 90-some Sears holdings. It would have been a lot more expensive to go out and find 90 brand new ones and go through that customer journey of those 9 steps before we started seeing some revenues and some profits.
Wow, that's fantastic, David. And one of the things there in Silicon Valley that tech companies, in your opinion, has higher valuation than traditional business?
They have what business?
Higher valuation.
Well, I think some of it is the future hype as to what the expectations of that company might be out into the future. Like Apple has pretty good valuations, primarily because they
all tech companies. Some of them they even and still they have high valuation. How you explain this?
Well, Apple has done it because they build good products that does what people want to do, what their customers want to do. Tesla does it based upon the hype of Elon Musk. There was a company back in the 80s called Commodore, which was also in the personal computer business, which I used to compete against when I was working for Apple. And they had a guy, Jack Tramiel, who is his equal huckster as Elon Musk is. And he fooled Wall Street for years. And finally, they got tired of him announcing things like the Tesla Roadster, the new one, which was announced, 4 to 6 years ago, was going to be shipped in a couple of years, and it still hasn't shipped. Then he came out with a garbage truck, Cybertruck, claimed that the thing could float. And yet, some guy in Southern California just the other day was launching his ski jet into the ocean, and his truck rolled backwards, his Cybertruck, and sank. So as people are beginning to learn that the hype does not match the reality, the valuations that we've seen in the case of Tesla, about half of was what it was 6 months ago. That's as a result of getting through the hype.
Yeah. Okay. And how do why in so tell us a little bit more about your company. What you helping people with?
Well, we teach product success, the areas of product management and product marketing. I've got a number of books on the market, building and sailing great products.
Tell us the title of the books.
Building and sailing great products is one. Another one is organizing and managing and sailing great products. And then a little 796-page pamphlet that Wiley has published as a textbook called Successful and Management Toolkit. And it's used at 2 MBA executive schools in India and has trained thousands. I also have online courses and teach in person because my number one client is Cisco, and I and my trainers have trained about half of the product managers at Cisco worldwide over the last 15. So you learn all about this with links to my books at spicecatalyst.com, or you go to Amazon in any country and just look up my name, and David Fradin as an author, and it will list all the books that I've written, in addition to a number of the workbooks that are used in my associated courses.
So any last advice you have for entrepreneurs out there that wants to grow the business and find funding? We think that in the tech space mainly the entrepreneurs they have those role models of Facebook founder, Google founder, and the Apple founder, and there is kind of a wrong assumption that if you're good as a coder or a good geek, that thing you can become a multi-millionaire, and it's a long way in order for that to happen. Saying that, 1 out of 5 multi-millionaires that we interview in this broadcast, they are tech entrepreneurs. So definitely it's a lot of money and a lot of that on the tech space. But what are the last for the tech entrepreneurs or for the entrepreneurs in general out there in order to grow the business?
It goes back to understanding your customer, what it is they want to do, when, where, why, how, what's standing in the way, how satisfied are they with the current solution. If you nail that, that's the core of your value proposition, of your product positioning, of your understanding who your target markets are, understanding your value proposition. Then you innovate a product that solves a particular problem. Without that, you're doomed for failure.
What do you think about second-time founders and tenth-time founders? Do you think that they are a risk? I was listening to one company the other day, one conference, and the speaker was saying that it was one entrepreneur that already failed 5 times, and he went asking for funding, and they said, no, we cannot give you money because you have a very bad track record. And I kind of thinking, wow. This guy is trying 5 times and it hasn't worked. This guy, the only thing that we need is to put him in the right track. It's just, this guy is just, I want him, nobody wants him. I want someone like that. So what do you think second, third time founders compared with the first time founders? What are the pros and cons? And which one do you prefer to work with? Why?
Well, if any of them go out first and understand what their customer wants to do, I would invest in them. But if they had 5 failures because they didn't figure out what it is the customer wants to do that, not fund them for the 6th failure. If one goes out there and realizes that they made a mistake and they learn from that mistake, for example, I was given credit back in 2003 that I shipped the first on a cell phone. And I went out, tries to raise money for it. And angel investors said, I don't want ads on my cell phone. Well, I didn't do the research of what it is that people want to do. If I had, I would have found that the market window, the 15 unmet needs, had not yet opened up in 2003. And the market didn't open up until iPhone was shipped in 2007. The last time I checked was a couple, 3 years ago. The advertising business on cell phones is over $15 billion a year.
Wow.
And was simply early and failed to recognize it because I had not done my market research.
Wow, David, thank you so much. And from all of you following this broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneur like David break that wall and achieve the first million. For now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.